The only way you can have a Nigerian wedding is either if you're one Nigerian or you're marrying a Nigerian. Anything else could possible. Like, I can't wake up tomorrow and say I want to be a Desi bride, because they know that their culture isn't a costume. Let's start gatekeeping.
I beg you, act like you come from a culture. You are not a cultural orphan.
Like I said, there's nothing wrong with admiring another culture. You can admire another culture and use that as inspiration and a drive for you to elevate what you have in your hands and make it even better, so that the world can also look to you and look to your creativity and admire it. Hi loves! Before we get into this week's video, I would like to start with a quick disclaimer. This video isn't intended to shame anyone that has worn another culture's traditional attire at their own wedding. I simply want to shine a light on a growing trend, spark an open conversation, and raise awareness, because many people may not realize how sensitive this topic can be. My goal is to explore the issue thoughtfully and respectfully, and to also learn from each other's perspectives. If you'd like to share your thoughts at the end, please keep your comments polite and constructive, because we're all here to learn from each other. Right, so I came across this video while scrolling through the streets of social media, TikTok to be specific, and I thought it was an interesting conversation, so I'm just going to play the video and we're going to dive right into it.
The only way you can have a Nigerian wedding is either if you're one Nigerian or you're marrying a Nigerian. Anything else could possible. Like, I can't wake up tomorrow and say I want to be a Desi bride, because they know that their culture isn't a costume. Let's start gatekeeping.
Right, when I first saw this video, I thought to myself, maybe something had gone viral, a video had gone viral where maybe two non-Nigerians had worn Nigerian attire at their traditional weddings. However, when I dug deeper into it and when I read the comments, I actually realized that they were not specifically talking about a one-off event. It was more of an observation over time, and the fact that it's becoming a trend for couples who are both non-Nigerians to wear Nigerian attire at their weddings. So the Nigerian gele or the agbada or the material. They were basically talking about weddings that will initially give off, the moment you look at, the first 3 or 10 seconds of it, it will give off, oh, this is a Nigerian wedding. But when you actually look into it, you realize that, oh, these are not Nigerians, they're of the African country. So I thought, wow, this was interesting. And it really reminded me actually of a situation I found myself while scrolling through Instagram in 2023. I remember this so vividly. I was scrolling through it and I saw this beautiful bride and her bridesmaids, and they were dressed beautifully. Makeup was done very nice. They had on this beautiful gele, lovely materials sewn, and I just thought, wow, what a beautiful Nigerian wedding. And when I scrolled through the comments, I was shocked. I was shocked to find out that they were actually not Nigerian at all, both couple, and they were from another African country. I believe they were specifically from Cameroon. And I was shocked. This was 2023. And I remember thinking, why would you want to wear someone else's traditional attire at your own traditional wedding? It really didn't make sense to me. But like I said, that was in 2023. I just thought, okay, whatever. Like, that was quite odd. I understand appreciating another culture's traditional attire, but adopting it fully for your own traditional attire, that just seemed really off to me. And like I said, that was the first time I came across that trend. Okay, so back to the video. She made a strong point where she said that the only time it would make sense for you to wear a Nigerian attire is if you're one, Nigerian, and two, you're marrying a Nigerian. She compared it to waking up one morning and deciding to be a Desi bride at your African traditional wedding. And that's something that would just feel misplaced, and I actually have to agree with her. A Desi bride refers to a bride from South Asian diaspora, often with cultural roots from countries such as India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. So when it comes to Desi weddings, I absolutely love their attire, I love their dressing, I love the dress, the embellishment, the embroidery, the detailing on the dress. I think it's absolutely beautiful, it's absolutely stunning. The intricate use of diamonds is so beautiful and captivating. But as much as I admire it, there is no way I could appreciate the deeper cultural meaning behind it. If I was to wear it at my own traditional wedding, there's just no way I could appreciate the significance behind it. I simply wouldn't have the lived experience or understanding to connect with it on that level. I simply wouldn't. It's okay to admire another culture. Nigerian culture is rich, and I can speak for the Yoruba culture. The Yoruba culture is very rich, it's vibrant. The styles, the color, the food, the gele, the clothing, the attires, it's all vibrant and beautiful. But admiration is one thing. However, replacing your own heritage with another is something else entirely. From the comment section, this seems to be a trend, and I really do not understand why. I don't know why this is a trend. I'll just like to read some of the comments on this specific video. It says, as a Ghanaian, my parents would never understand me choosing Asoebi over Kente. I don't understand why people don't embrace their own culture. Someone else says, it's not a theme. It's not a costume, it's a culture. Another one says, me seeing some Congolese weddings, I love my people, but enough is enough. I see it a lot with different African countries, wearing gele, agbada, asoebi, isiagu. Even saw some Kenyan couples do the Igbo chant and handshake. It's actually so weird, even cosplaying. I hope Kenyans are listening, since we are notorious for wearing Nigerian fits. Hence why I don't understand why Ghanaian brides will have their bridesmaids wearing gele. Someone else says the Congolese people need to see this. Literally, if you're not a Nigerian bride, then having a Nigerian wedding is just so beggish. A very important take. I'm honestly so tired of seeing my people wear gele and ashoke. Not all African weddings must have a Nigerian attire. I'm so sick of it. As a Congolese, I agree. I sadly have seen too many Congolese couples use Nigerian theme as a wedding when our own culture has its own traditional wedding. Someone else, I'm from Guinea-Bissau, and for the past 2 years I've been seeing people wearing the head wraps, the little fan with the feather, and I was like, this is not from our culture. What are we doing? If I see one more gele at a South African wedding, this message is to South Sudanese, please, we're tired. Simple as that. Traditional wedding is performing marriage rites according to your culture, wear your cultural attire and be proud of it. Nigerian wedding is not a trend or a costume. This one says, I'm ashamed of my Congolese people because they've been doing it. Now they are wearing kente. If we talk, we are seen as haters. This says, facts, seeing other countries copying gele, asoebi material, even spraying money is originally a Yoruba element, agbada, fila, etc. Even Google tells these people these are cultural traditions of Nigeria. I will say that in my culture, Sierra Leonean, we wear asoebi for our weddings too, but the colors are white and gold. And guys, the comments just went on and on and on. And what I found really interesting was actually the people who were also from other African countries who were saying, hey, you know, we've seen this happen. We've seen people from our countries do this and it's not okay. We don't like it. It's not a good narrative. And I really found that interesting that people were just openly talking about this trend and just calling out people from their culture who were not practicing it. I saw this other video and I thought it was just appropriate.
These girls are getting cooked on Twitter right now, and rightfully so, because not that you could tell by how they're dressed, but they're not even a little bit Nigerian. They are from Guinea. And what I don't like about this is the fact that Nigerians, particularly Yoruba people, get a lot of stick for being very boastful and proud and loud about their culture. And, you know, maybe to an extent I can see where people are coming from sometimes, especially Yorubas, you know, we can be quite loud. But when you behave like this, what do you expect? Because people from Guinea and that part of West Africa have beautiful native attire. So why aren't you wearing your own? I don't get it. And who knows, Sha, maybe they'll come out and give us an explanation as to what they were thinking. But guys, come on. Because don't go and do this and then get annoyed when Nigerians come online to say, oh, Nigeria is the giant of Africa. Because what's this?
This is getting out of hand. calling all Kenyans, calling all Congolese, calling all Africans, I beg you, please. If you are not getting married to a Nigerian and you're not a Nigerian yourself, stop dressing in cultural attire for your wedding ceremony that you are not a part of. You are not a part of. I never thought in this day I would be addressing Kenyans on this issue. I saw the Congolese do it. I saw the Congolese dressing in Nigerian attire. I saw the Liberians do it. I didn't think that the madness would travel to the east, but it has reached Kenya. What you saw was a traditional Nyombo ceremony, and a Nyombo ceremony in my tribe, that is basically the traditional wedding. What you did not see was a Nigerian bride or Nigerian groom. What you did see is two Kenyans dressing in Nigerian attire for a wedding. It's so cringe. I don't think anybody has any place dressing in another culture's attire when you're doing your culture's traditional wedding. For example, I'm Luo, by the grace of God. And I have no business dressing like a Congolese, Nigerian, South African at my traditional wedding unless I'm being married to a man from those cultures. It's bad manners. Please, we need to act, I beg you, act like you come from a culture. You are not a cultural orphan. This is just in general. I know that we're in an era of sharing is caring. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I do know that if you have a culture of your own, act like it. It is not bad to appreciate other people's cultures in certain contexts, but I'm talking specifically in this case for weddings. Act like you have a culture of your own. You are not a cultural orphan. Please. Please, because when people start insulting you and saying you don't have a culture, what will you say? Because when you're here picking and mixing and doing all this type of stuff, it looks like you don't know where you come from. If you know where you come from and you know the culture, just stick to that. Please. It is getting embarrassing. It is getting out of hand. Do not give room for people to insult you. Because when it's justified, who can come to your defense? It is not bad to admire or respect or wear, traditional clothing in appropriate context from other cultures. For example, if you're marrying into a certain culture. But please, don't do this. I've been seeing this on the internet and now the Kenyans are doing it.
Guys, you heard it from that lady. You're not a cultural orphan. You have a culture. You're coming from somewhere. You've come from somewhere. You're a part of a particular culture. Showcase it. Embrace it. Show the world that culture. Whilst doing my research for this video, I came across this wedding I'm going to play for you in a second. Whilst watching this wedding, I actually thought within the first 5-10 seconds of it, I thought this was Nigerian, to be specific, a Yoruba wedding, simply because the bridesmaids had gele on. But to my surprise, they were actually not Nigerians. Let's get into it. Guys, to my surprise, this is actually a Ghanaian wedding. Apparently, a lot of people said in the comment section that the lady was speaking a Ghanaian language, I believe Tree. And a lot of people confirmed in the comment section that it was actually a Ghanaian wedding. But what really caught my attention was the comment section and the amount of back and forths. Let's dive into the comment section for this video. This not being a Nigerian wedding is surprising because the gele, the style of the dresses, the fan and the song is all a Nigerian thing. Someone says you can only see this in my country, Nigeria. Someone says Nigerian weddings are the best in the whole of Africa. Someone says, is this a Nigerian wedding? Are these not Ghanaians? Tell your people to stop wearing gele instead of arguing blindly. Wow, I really enjoy Nigerian weddings. Wish I attend one day. For me, it's the fact that people are looking at this and just instantly thinking it's a Nigerian wedding. Someone says, since when did Ghanaians start wearing gele? Someone says, is this a Ghana Nigerian wedding? Because why am I hearing tree but seeing gele? Someone says, Ghana beauty is looking good in gele. Another person says, why am I seeing gele, Ashoebi and Ekupe, which is Ninja feather hand fan? These comments are weird. Ghanaians and Kenyans claiming Nigerian culture. Why? What happened to your traditional clothing? Someone is asking, Ghana people say they wear gele. This one says, why are Ghana bridesmaids using Nigerian geles? Guys, the comment just went on and on with people questioning why they were wearing this specific attire. And I could really see where they're coming from, because when I think of Ghanaian weddings, I think of the beautiful, the gorgeous kente material, and I love what some Ghanaian brides have gone on to do with it. Most recently, the styles that they've gone to sew with this kente is absolutely stunning. Styles like this, and these styles are gorgeous. And if I'm looking at your traditional wedding, the first 3 seconds or the first 5 seconds, I should be able to say, wow, this is a Ghanaian traditional wedding. This is a Nigerian traditional wedding, or this is a Cameroon traditional wedding. Just from what you're wearing. Just the same way, if a Scottish man was to get married, himself and his groomsmen, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in a kilt, because that's their culture. When I attend someone's wedding from a different culture, I look forward to experiencing that culture. I look forward to seeing them in their attire. When I went to my friend's Igbo wedding, it was such a beautiful wedding. And for me, it was really nice to experience another culture. And my favorite part of that culture was when the bride took around the wine and she was looking for her husband. That's such a rich culture. It's not in my culture, but I absolutely loved it. It was such a beautiful sight to behold. Every culture has something beautiful and unique to offer. And I think it's so important for you to celebrate your roots so proudly, not just for yourself, but for your children too. They need that cultural clarity and pride to be passed down. If you do not own your culture and take pride in it, if you keep diluting it with other cultures from elsewhere, there will be confusion. And how are we able to pass that on to our children? Recently, I attended a beautiful Nigerian Yoruba wedding, and there were 2 food stations. One station had your typical Nigerian food, so your jollof rice, your fried rice, and the second station had the amala, what we call the abula setup. And do you know what? That was by far the longest queue. And what made me so happy, what filled my heart with joy, was me seeing so many young people, young British born people, who were in this queue, and they were queuing up to have this traditional food. And it really filled my heart with joy that yes, our tradition is not dying, and that it's alive, and it's our duty to keep it that way. It's important for us to celebrate our culture, both the clothing, the food. It's important for us to celebrate it, because if we don't, who will? One thing I would say is that I saw in the comment section, some people said, oh, but Nigerian culture is just so beautiful, it's so rich. One thing I like to say to that is that Nigerian culture wasn't always so sleek and elegant. Our mothers wore much baggier Iro and Buba, but those styles have evolved beautifully over the years. The gele that we see now, that's so intricately done and is now a form of art, was never like that. Growing up, I used to see geles that would be looking like parachutes on our mothers' heads, and I'll be like, there's no way I'll be wearing that. Thank God for a fashion style that's now evolved, that's now really trendy and sleek. But that evolution was able to happen because of pride and creativity. Nigerians took pride even in that big, huge gele, even in the what looked like an oversized Iro and Buba. They still took pride in it, and they ran with that vision, and they've created it into what it is today. The gele is now like an art form. Nigerians didn't settle, they refined and built on what they had. And that's how they've managed to stay relevant. Take Cameroon, for example. They have this beautiful atogu, apologies if I haven't pronounced that right, atogu material. And that material can be transformed into beautiful, beautiful designs and should be showcased at their weddings. I would love to see more of things like this at people's weddings, and that way you allow the world to become familiar with your culture and with your tradition. Some of the comment section defended this trend by saying, okay, Nigerians have white weddings and so therefore they have no right to tell other cultures not to partake in their culture and not to take what they want from their culture. And what I would say about white weddings is that yes, it's true that Nigerians and many African countries have widely embraced white weddings, which has a Western origin. But a key difference here is history. White weddings weren't just adopted, they were imposed on us through colonization, religion, and Western education. It wasn't exactly a free exchange. It was part of a systemic erasure of native culture. So when Nigerians have a white wedding today, yes, it's cultural borrowing, but it's borrowing shaped by a colonial past. So I'm sorry, that argument just doesn't carry any weight. It's not the same as someone freely choosing to wear Yoruba attire just because it looks cool on Instagram. So even though the two scenarios might look the same on the surface, they're actually very different underneath. Something I've always said and I've never understood is, why do we need to have both a traditional wedding and a white wedding? I've never understood it. I know I'm digressing a little bit, but whilst we're on this topic, I've never understood why we needed to have both. It's expensive, both weddings are expensive, and it's just such an exhausting process. And I actually feel like we're just repeating the same thing twice. Just that the white wedding you've got, I'm gonna come from the Christian point, just that the white wedding you've got minister, like a pastor, who pronounces blessings over you. But really and truly, I feel like you can also have a traditional element and have a pastor bless you at that. I just never understand why we need to have the two. I do think we should pick one, either the traditional or a white wedding, but each to their own. Another comment that I saw was, it's just fabric, it's just clothing, what's the big deal? Well, there is a big deal. When Nigerians wear traditional attire, or with any culture, when people wear their traditional attire, it's not just about the clothing, it's about the deep cultural connection that they feel. It's a celebration of heritage, identity, and pride. This is you. It defines you, where you've come from. There are so many nuances within a culture, things that you can only appreciate if you've grown up in it or have some genuine connection to it. Without that understanding, the attire can just come across as just being a costume, with you not having appreciation for the attire. And it's not just clothing, like I said, it's our culture. If we treat our traditions as disposable fashion, then we risk losing them. Every time we wear our own attire, we reinforce its value for our children and our communities. Wearing another culture's wedding garments without understanding its meaning risks reducing it to a trend. It's like borrowing someone's diary and just reading the pretty parts. That's not very nice. So yes, it's just clothes on the surface, but those clothes carry our story, our struggle, and our pride. That's why it matters. And a final point I really wanted to address, one of the things I kept seeing was, we're all Africans. Absolutely, we're all Africans, and I absolutely love that unity. However, Africa is a continent with over 3,000 distinct ethnic groups, each with its own language, customs, and dress. Celebrating our shared identity doesn't mean that we lose the beauty in our differences. When someone wears another culture's wedding attire, let's say the Yoruba gele or the Igbo outfits, without understanding the meaning behind it, it just flattens those unique stories into one generic African look. And there's just more to us in Africa. We have beautiful cultures, from the Yoruba culture to the Edo culture to the Igbo culture to the various cultures in Ghana, in Cameroon, in Kenya. Beautiful, beautiful cultures that should be showcased proudly for the world to see. Anyways, loves, I saw this video on social media and I just thought to share my thoughts on this trending issue. What are your thoughts about it? Have you had any personal experience or stories you would like to share with us? Please feel free to do so in the comments section. And if you like this type of content, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Till next time, guys. Bye.